Welcome back to the I'm Book podcast. I'm April O'Leary, and I am so excited today to have one of my favorite people on, Karen Shepard, who is owner of HR by Karen. She provides HR consulting services to small and mid-sized businesses. She's a leader. She's a professional speaker, and she's now an author. So welcome to the show, Karen.
Thank you for having me, April, and for being my publisher.
Well, Karen's book, Lead with Love, came out the day before Valentine's Day, February 13th, and was an amazing book launch, not only an online book launch, but we had an in-person book launch at her offices in Naples, Florida. Let's start with how amazing that was. I was blown away by how
I was
many
too.
people showed up at your book launch.
I was overwhelmed. I have to admit, I have never felt so much support and love and friendships that carried on for over 50 years that showed up for the Zoom book launch and the in-person one. I mean, it's just incredible, the support. It's been a beautiful community.
It's a beautiful community, but I will say, and this is something we were talking about right before pressed record, and I said, hold on, sister, we need to capture all of this. But Karen is a master at building relationships. And as a publisher, something I find very interesting is, I see a lot of book fairs, and we do a lot of book launches. And I would say all the books we publish are excellent because we make them excellent in partnership with our authors. But not every author has the community and the network you have built. So hats off to you on that. And let's talk a little bit about building community, because there's nothing more revealing than when you have a book coming out and nobody shows up or nobody cares. And then on the other side, when somebody like you launches a book and you're sweating trying to get through the hallway to even make it to your offices because there's so many people there.
Don't make me cry. Like I have goosebumps. Honestly, the memory is just unbelievable.
So how did you start to become that leader, that community builder, that relationship builder? How did you do that? Or was that just something that was always sort of wired in you from a young, from your youth?
That is a great question. I had a very strong foundation. I was very blessed with two parents who really loved people. My dad was a Holocaust survivor, and Holocaust survivor, and this is just my personal opinion, have had two paths. They either could hate life and choose negatively and take it very personally what happened when it was very out of their control what happened, or they can take the path and choose gratitude, a life of gratitude. And that's what my father taught me, is a life of gratitude and not caring what color, what race, what politics, none of it mattered. Are you a good human? And that was a very strong lesson I've learned in life and carried it through. Now, I will be honest, my earlier leader was selfish, very selfish. It was all about me. Not that I didn't have a kind heart and not that I wouldn't do the same thing that I do now and give, like with my foundation, the Lead with Love Foundation. But it was the attitude and the mindset. If I do this for you, what am I going to get? I had an expectation. And something funny happened when I was about 45 years old and I changed my career. I was a single mom. I started human resources, went back to school for that. And a funny shift in my mindset happened. And I realized it wasn't about me. It's never about me. It is about other people's stories and other people's perception and a life of full gratitude, meaning surrendering to the universe. It really is. And when I had that shift, I feel like things started happening for me,
Mm.
not to me. And even the bad stuff, like life is a roller coaster. It is not giving us all, bowl of cherries and sunshine and smiles. We are provided and gifted obstacles. And those obstacles I see as a gift now, a gift, an opportunity to make me stronger, to make me more resilient. And it made me a different person, still a giver, but
You
with
are
no expectations. I have 0 expectations. When you have 0 expectations, it takes this whole weight off of your shoulders. It's like I'm not sitting here waiting for someone to give back to me just because I provide.
Mhm.
I don't care. I give from my heart, I lead with my heart, and when you lead from your heart, you truly are in a whole different place because I don't wanna say I don't care because that's not it. It's more like I care more, not care, but, I care more about you, and it doesn't matter where I am. As long as we value each other and respect each other with our opinions and our backgrounds, and you're not judging me or assuming anything, you're being curious, you're asking questions. Those are the things that are important and why I want those people in my circle
I love
because
that.
they make me better.
I heard not too long ago, you can't outgive the universe.
Yeah,
And it's true because sometimes the people that we give to, we can't expect, okay, I'm going to give this to you, and then you're going to somehow down the line give that back to me. But just by activating that energy of giving, whether I'm
yes.
just with you or to the homeless person that's standing in the Target parking lot, it's that activating the generosity. It can come back from anywhere.
Oh,
That
yeah.
often comes back from places where we know we could never give back to the place we received it from.
Right?
So I love that you have that shift. Was there a moment when you talked about being 45 and you had this prior mindset of like, what's in it for me? And I'll give, strategic leads, people who kind of like work that climbing the ladder. Like, if I give to this person or I get in the right room, then I'll get something back. But
Right.
what was it? Was there a moment that happened in time? Was there a person that influenced you, a book you read? Like, what was it that gave you that ability to sort of shift thinking?
I feel it was me going back to school and getting my master's degree
Mhm.
in a time of my life I was probably in my lowest.
Mm.
I was working for the same attorney for 21 years. I felt lost. I felt like I didn't have purpose. I didn't know why I was still living because
Mhm.
I was supposed to have died when I was 15. I really felt very lost. I was a single mom. My daughter was in those teenage years of, you know, I don't I don't even know who I am. How am I supposed to
That's the end of the
that?
sentence. She was in those teenage years. Period. End of sentence. Yes. Yes, we understand. Yes.
Oh, and I really feel that going to school and having that second chance, that second opportunity to learn, and I was doing it on my dollar, on my time. I lost my job of 21 years because they couldn't support the human resources. I was in the legal industry. And so I kind of organically took myself out of the equation and I wasn't working. And for 6 months, I was living off of my 401k. And my mom, 80 years old, God bless her soul, moved down to Virginia Beach to help me where I was living at the time helped me with Lauren because I was gone 15-hour days. And I really felt that that hardship that put me in such a different mindset that, wow, like looking back 15 years ago, I honestly do not know how I did it. And it
Well,
was,
grace, it's
uh,
like the grace of life, right? Those times when we look back and we're like, we were carried and
yes,
just happened. Your body took yourself there. Your mind did what it had to do. The right people or opportunities showed up. But you
yeah,
said it. You said yes. You saw those opportunities and you took them and you
yes,
could help. And I think sometimes when we are givers and we're in the position where we need help, it does make us realize that it is that back and forth, the
yeah.
giving.
But it was also a lot of sacrifice during that time, right? I had to say no to a lot of friends. I had to say no to a lot of social activities. I became the cleaning person again, all these extra things, getting my nails done. I had to say no to all of that. It was a lot of sacrifice. And recently, my daughter asked me, just this past weekend, she asked me, Mom, how did you do it? Like, my daughter is now 27 years old, and I feel like she's finally awakening, right? And it's such a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, because
And
I'm a mother and you do so much to pour into your kids and to try to teach them,
yes,
provide and sacrifice and hoping that someday at age 27 or maybe when they have their first child of their own, if that's their path, that they say like, holy crap,
right.
wow, my mom was amazing.
Yes. I'm finally Wonder Woman in her eyes.
Our Wonder Woman, for sure. So, it's interesting about you saying you had to say no to a lot of things. But also on the other side of that, I hear because you were saying yes to the things that mattered to you at the time that you knew were going to get you where you wanted to go. So I think that at times it seems hard to say no to I gotta put the cleaning in, or I can't get my nails done, or I can't go to all these events with my friends, or go to the nice dinners, or even the movies. There's times when you gotta whittle things down, but it's because you're in this sort of incubation period of saying yes to new education or raising a child or going through a divorce or any of those kinds of life transitions where you had to put yourself on the front burner. But because you were going to take care of your daughter and because you wanted a better life for yourself. So it's that push and pull of the yeses and the nos, I think. So you graduated then with your master's and
Yes. 30
that's what
years after getting a 2.2 GPA.
I love it. I love your honesty. It's so great. So here you are now, single mom with your master's degree. And then what happens?
What happens is, I wanted to be the law firm administrator and I became the law firm administrator. And I realized the legal industry continued to put me in a box. They didn't understand the heart centered approach that I had for 21 years. It didn't matter where I landed my feet. Joanne Blair Davis, who was my boss for 21 years, really, I don't even want to call her my boss. I really want to call her my mentor because that's really what I realize now that she truly was to me. She taught me the heart-centered approach, which is what I wrote my book on. It's all about leading with compassion, empathy, and heart. She was with me longer than the 18 years I was with my parents. you know? And she dealt with the whole life cycle of my life. I was single when we met, and then I was engaged and married and pregnant. And I was a single mom even when I wasn't single because my ex husband was in the military. So he was in the Navy and he was. Once when we got divorced, I had to figure it out for, the paperwork. But it was astonishing to me that out of 8 years that we were married, half of it, literally 4 years he was gone on deployments. And that blew my mind. I honestly did not realize that. So I was a single mom even when I wasn't. And then here I was, then she had to deal with the divorce and all the drama that goes on with that. And then being a single mom. And she embraced it like a champ. Did
Mm,
we have situations like when Lauren ran around the office with shaving cream? Yes, yes, we did run into a few obstacles, you know? And you heard our my administrator, the law firm administrator, she even said on the Zoom launch, she shared that I was her biggest HR nightmare, you know? And, and sometimes I wonder, not everyone embraced it like Joanne,
mm,
the life cycle. And it really, COVID, even though I started HR by Karen in COVID after getting terminated from my position, it was the time everyone needed love. And so it was the perfect time. The path that I had been on, at that time for the past 10, 11 years was where I needed to be to show up for today.
mm. I love the story that you share, with Karen talking about the heart-centered approach, which is what her book is all about. It's 10 heart-centered strategies. So when you run your business, you're like, she wanted to call the book Don't Be an Asshole. And I said, We're not going to call it that." But it is kind of the crux of it, is that you don't need to be an asshole to run a successful business. And in fact, if you lead with love, as Karen teaches, you will have much more success, much more loyal employees, and much more peace in your workplace. But she talks about this story, and I want you to share it. I've heard it a few times, but for those who are listening, you haven't, about the flat tire,
Oh,
the car that's broken down.
yes. Do I need to call up that? Because I don't wanna get it wrong. Should I call it up? Should I
No,
want
just
to.
tell it as you remember. Just the story arc, I think, is it shows the difference between the two approaches. The way that the person is treated in a heart-centered approach versus the way that person is treated if it's like a traditional, we don't care about you, let's get the trains running on time without any concern for your well-being.
Okay, so the basis of it is when you lead with love, the first part of leading is looking inside. Are you looking in the mirror? Have you self-assessed yourself first? So if you send someone on to a job and they were supposed to be there 30 minutes ago, but they got a nail in their tire. That's something that's totally out of our control. But if the tire got flat on the way to a job, well, whose fault is that the tire got flat? Could you look in the mirror and ask yourself, did I train that employee to make sure that he takes the truck in for service every 3 months to get the oil changed, checked for the tires to be checked to avoid that flat tire? A nail is out of our control, but a flat tire, could that possibly be in our control? Where did you ask the questions? Are you mad at the employee or are you just blaming and making excuses for yourself? But really, you should be looking in the mirror and addressing if you trained them properly.
And I think that some of the things I've heard you say as well to that point is, what are the processes you have in place for
Right.
them to basically, take their car in every 3 months? Or is there a maintenance department? Or did you not replace
Mhm.
the tires and the tires were threadbare
Right.
and the company is supposed to maintain those things, but you were too cheap to do it? Or, so I think it's a very compassionate way to deal with the hurdles that are going to come up in any business, because we're all people that are just trying
Yes.
we can with the skills we have. And I think coming to any situation with that in mind will, like you said, not project blame. And then all of a sudden now this 30-minute delay that was out of their control becomes a big, massive HR nightmare because now you want to fire the person or you know, instead of saying, was there any part of our processes that failed? Or was there anything that didn't do to train this person, et cetera? So Karen's got 10 really profound ways to lead with love that she shares in her book, 10 Heart Centered Strategies to Build a More Profitable Business. And it's lead with love. She lays it all out. And on her approach to bringing HR services to businesses, that's how she operates. And this is what I love about your book, Karen, is that we were just talking before we got on this podcast. I mean, Karen is everywhere. If you're in Southwest Florida, you probably have already met Karen. If not, she will probably be at your next networking event because I said to Karen, I said, how do you even keep up with yourself? Like you're here, you're down in Laney, and then you're up in Estero like the same day, and then you're here. And what did you tell me? I would love for you to just share exactly what we were talking about before this started.
It's all about building relationships and showing up for people and not selling yourself. I've been in business now over 4 years, and it's continuing to stay top of mind because now I'm really seeing 4 years in, I'm really seeing the trajectory of the referrals. People are knowing that I'm the resource. They see that they can value and trust me because I'm still here, I'm still building the relationships, and I'm still showing up. It's so important to be consistent in all of that. I say what I do and I do as I say. Someone should be more concerned if I show up in a room and don't hug them
Yeah.
than if I do hug them, right? Sometimes I ask, are you a hugger? Because I'm a hugger. I really truly do care for everyone that I speak to. I'm very present with them. I don't wear an Apple Watch. I cannot because my ADD would drive me crazy. I would never be able to, I'd be looking at my watch all day long. If I'm talking to someone, if it's buzzing on my hand, I just can't do it. But I do. I try and be very present in the moment. If I can't be, if there is a reason why, let's say I'm waiting for a client call, if I'm having coffee with someone, I will say, I am waiting for a call from a client, or I'm waiting for this, or, you know, this is the only reason why I have my phone out. And you explain, it's all about communication. I feel like communication is so missed. If you're curious, ask questions. I was talking at the function I was at yesterday, and it was a leader's lead opportunity. And I was sharing with someone, yeah, I don't know everything. I am still going to go to leadership workshops that I find that are going to be valuable, that I'm going to learn from. And the reason why you have to continuously learn, to continuously be curious, is so that I can continuously give back. If we're just learning and not taking action and not doing, we got to learn and take action. Learn, take action. It's so important. And building the relationship, it's no different. You're building the relationship. Those relationships that are really strong, you don't need to talk to them every day. You don't. It's like, my you pick up the phone, you haven't talked to someone for a year, and it's like yesterday because of the strong relationship that you have built. Doesn't have to be a daily conversation.
Who has time for that, right? I
I
mean, I think that's
gotta work
really funny.
sometime.
My sister and I were talking about that recently. This is a short sidebar here, but she has some friends, which is very unique, I think, that she still talks to on a regular basis from high school.
Yeah.
And I have friends from high school that people I would consider friends, but like you said, I may see them at reunions or leave comments on their Facebook posts or whatever. Very, but recently I hired my best friend from high school is now our operations manager.
That's awesome.
This instant rapport and trust because we spent so much time together in high school. I know who she is. I know her family. I know her work ethic. We both were distance runners and played basketball together. I mean, we probably walked thousands of miles running the sidewalks in Mount Prospect, Illinois. It is true that the relationships you build don't have to be at that level when you're in high school and you see people every day. That's a unique time in life. And I think that as we get older, it's hard to sort of realize that life does change. You can't talk to people every day. Nobody's doing that, you know? And so knowing that those relationships are maintained, even despite maybe sometimes we don't live near each other or in different time zones, we have different work schedules or we're in different phases of parenting or whatever. It's a beautiful thing to sort of have those people that are treasured from across the
Yes.
decades, which is what showed up for you at your book launch.
Yes. Yes.
So
I'm very blessed.
let's talk for a minute about your book because Heather and I went to Karen's office through a mutual friend, Michelle Borders. I give her a shout out.
Yeah.
And we met and sat around your table in your office, which, you know, we love to do with our authors who are local. For those who aren't local, we do it over Zoom. But just Karen's energy, as you can tell, is just so positive. She's got so much to share. She's got so much knowledge, almost to the like, oh my God, I've got all of this. How do I possibly put this into a book? So let's talk a little bit about our first meeting. What do you remember from that and how did it go for you?
It was empowering. You and Heather left me very empowered, like, this is a possibility. I could be an author. It was you simplified it. You took all my mess and you simplified it and compartmentalized it. What's the word?
Well, you see, that's the thing, and I wouldn't say it's a mess. I would say that when we are siloed into our knowledge base, right? We become very well versed and expert in our category. We have so much more knowledge than what anyone outside of that space has, and so we want to give them everything. When it's taken us a long time, I mean, you got a master's degree, for goodness sakes. You've been in the field, you've been doing it. So it's boiling it down to like, I've got this massive amount of information, but now how do I distill it into something that is going to help the reader who may be coming to this topic with no knowledge? What are the
Right.
really important points? What are the really important stories? What's the core message that I want to get across? And your core message was leading with love. Leading with love, leading with love, leading with love. Your stories, your examples, your experiences, and all of that kind of surface through the conversations. And that's who
Yeah.
you are. Like the hugging and the supporting and the encouraging, like that is the essence of who Karen is, truly.
Yeah.
So her book is a reflection of that. And that's what you're anyone who writes a book, the book is going to come from your heart, it's from your experiences. So as you were writing it, you know, you have this roadmap, you know, we were able to kind of agree on a table of contents and the message and who the reader was going to be, and also how this was going to sort of elevate your voice in the marketplace, how people is going to attract people to your business, to HR by Karen. And how was that for you in the writing process?
Uh, the writing process was so I'm not gonna say it was easy. It was probably one of the most hardest things I ever did. Y I can't tell you how many times I cried to Heather. Like, "I can't do this. I'm done. I don't feel like it anymore." It was hard. I had to still make a living by day, and by night, I and sometimes sleepless nights, I was being trying to be creative. But I firmly believe that anything that's easy is not worthwhile.
Mm,
If it's hard and you push through it, the end result is such joy, like, I can't even explain it. It is so overwhelming happiness and relief, and I really feel that with my book, I really truly created a heart-centered revolution where even some of the industries I work are very male dominant.
Mm.
The electricians, the plumbers, the tech, right? Very male dominant. And they get it. They get it. But they say, "Can you do it?"
Well, I think what you've created is not an HR, people wanna run from the HR department generally,
Yes.
right? Like, "Oh my god, let me go hide. What does she wanna say? What am I getting fired?" Right? And you have turned that dynamic around, and your book shows that it can be turned around.
Yes.
Now this book, which is now launched into the world, it has kind of taken on its own wings, and you've had some exciting things happen. Do you wanna share a
Yeah.
couple things that maybe in your mind would be inspiring, or someone who gave you feedback and loved it, or opportunity that opened up because of it, or anything you wanna share that you feel like, "You know what? Those sleepless nights, it was worth it."
So one of my funniest comments that I received, I gifted them a book actually, my college roommate and her husband. One of my college roommates, I had a couple. Her and her husband were here on vacation and in Naples, and I said, "Have you gotten my book yet?" And they go, "No." Everyone kind of is in shame when I ask them the question. I'm like, "It's okay. Let me sign one for you." And I gifted it to her. Probably about 2 days later, she texts me and she goes, "Karen, I started reading your book. It's actually really good." I could not stop laughing because I didn't take what she said personal. I took it like you knew me when I was 18 years old. I am 59 years old. I've grown up a little bit, right? And it was probably she was probably surprised. I am a different person than I was 18. Life experiences change us. Our stories change because of the life experiences that were gifted to us, whether they were good or bad. I'll say it again. It's our choice every day how we choose to wake up. Do we want to be an asshole or do we want to give love? I mean, really, those are the 2 choices. It's not rocket science. And I am very passionate about that, and I find that the only individuals who I have received negative feedback from, which hasn't been that much, but in general in business, just being in business, is because I call them out or they're not holding themselves accountable.
Mm.
Being a good leader means holding yourself accountable,
Mhm.
period. Self assess,
Mhm.
look in the mirror. If you don't like who you are, you have all the tools to choose to be different. And so, lead with love, adopt it. Love is not a dirty word in business. And
No, it should take you way further.
it takes you way further.
I
Jeez.
know the one, "You catch more flies with honey than vinegar."
Okay, it's like that same
Similar?
concept.
Is that a
You
similar
get
sentiment?
more Yes, you get more sugar, with kindness, right? It's the same thing. I still can. My high school friend who I'm still talk to at least on a weekly basis. We've been besties since we were 8. And she says, "You've always been so good at getting out of things." And I said, "Is it about getting out of things or is it about just communicating that you need help?" If you ignore a conflict, if you ignore a situation, that turns into a volcano. And I think I talk about that in my book.
Mhm.
It really does. And it only takes one moment for that volcano to erupt. However, if you deal with the conflict head on and you don't make it the elephant in the room, right? You just deal with it head on and just communicate it and talk it out. That communication is the key to opening up so many doors. And I have just not learned to get myself out of things as much as I've learned to communicate and ask for help. And that is so hard for me to ask for help. So hard because my father taught me to be a survivor on my own. I mean, he really did. My dad was a survivor. He made me one. So to ask for help, if I'm calling, I really need the help. I don't, you know, play.
But I always think because I think that it's not hard, I think, if you're a giving person to wanna be on the giving side of things. Like, I'd much rather, like you said, gift a book.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
I would
yeah.
much rather just I'd rather buy 1,000 books and be able to just give them all out rather than asking for someone, "Could you support my book launch? Could you buy my book? Could you" you know, 'cause there's a certain vulnerability in that.
Yeah.
But I always think if you can reverse the tables and say, "But what if this person was asking for my help? What if they said, 'Hey, I have a book launch coming. Could you support me?'" You'd be more than willing to. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting to think about that allowing someone else to be the giver is kind of gifting them with something too.
Yes.
It's not easy though. It's not easy. So Karen has done such a beautiful job on the book. I'll close with this final thing
Okay.
because it was a beautiful moment that came together towards the end of your book, which was the Lead with Love Foundation.
Oh, yeah.
And, to me, part of the beauty of working with a team and communicating and sharing ideas, and kind of, you think of this like a potter's wheel, lump of clay, and we're kind of all working together to form it. And then ideas come out of sort of nowhere, out of the universe, so from our heart. So, talk a little bit about the Lead with Love Foundation.
The end of the year, I was talking to my bookkeeper and my accountant friend, and separately on the same day, they both happened to call me out and say, "You are not a philanthropist. If you continue to give all your money away, you have to start making yourself a priority." I separated, like the call and the conversation. And I happened to be driving into the Jordan where I do missionary work every month with them. And and it was so clear to me as I was driving in the car, and I asked myself, well, what if I was a philanthropist? Like,
Mm,
why not me? Just like when I started HR by Karen, why not me? That's what Ellen Latham said when she started the Orange Theory. Why not me?
mhm,
And so I asked myself that same question. Why can't I be a philanthropist? And so I called them both immediately and they loved it. They agreed. And so that's how I started the Lead with Love, is because I had to get some tough love to make me a priority. And they weren't wrong. It was okay. But, it's interesting. I was listening to a John Maxwell recording. The foundation is doing this great event on November 1. I don't know when this is airing. I don't know if I should have said November 1, but at Off the Hook Comedy Club. And as it was being recorded, and I want to say it was John Gordon, but I'm not quite sure if it was him. They said, switch the words around. We all heard the word tough love, tough love. Like I always say, I had to give had to give Lauren tough love, or you have to give an employee tough love. He said, switch the words around. You have to love tough. You lead with the heart centered approach. You lead with that love, the compassion, empathy, and heart. The tough part is holding them accountable. And
mm,
I about lost myself. Like, that is such a perfect example. It's not tough love, it's love tough.
mm,
Lead with the love. But the exclamation point is accountability. You
Mhm.
don't excuse that.
I don't think we can make this podcast end better, honestly. I think this was a grand slam. You all can throw your hats in the air, go get your popcorn or whatever, but, this is a wrap. I mean, this is beautiful to really feel like we're touching on such important work. How to humanly treat people with love, how to hold them accountable, how to show up in situations where there's conversations that need to be had and have them, because out of compassion, you don't want to wait till the volcano explodes. How to look deeper and not blame. How to become a philanthropist. We touched on so many things today, and I want to thank you so much for your time to be so transparent and so honest and so real. Karen really is the leader that she talks about being. There are leaders who want to get on a stage and talk about leadership, and they're not great leaders sometimes. But Karen really does lead with the heart. If you haven't met her yet and you see her out in the world or you see her speaking on stage, I would recommend you go up and give her a hug. And 100% before that happens, buy her book, Lead with Love. It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes and Noble. You can go to our website, HR by Karen, and get a copy as well. It's in paperback, it's an ebook version, and this book will absolutely change. It'll revolutionize the way that you look at how you approach difficult situations in your business. And if you have a small to mid-sized business and you don't have an HR department, you don't have someone handling your HR needs, Karen is your girl. Absolutely reach out to Karen. She would love to talk to you about how to support your business and how to bring that heart-centered approach and change and improve the culture in your company. And that will make your business more profitable, which is what the subtitle of our book is. It's about making more profitable business by leading with love. So, Karen, thank you so much for trusting us with your heart and your work and letting us help you bring this book out in the world, which is such an important piece of work. I just adore you and thank you for your time to be on the podcast.
Thank you. I heard you.
I heart you too. And make sure that y'all hop on over to hrbykaren.com and connect with her over there. We'll see you on the next episode.